What's up guys, and welcome back to another video. In this one we'll be talking all about my computer science degrees that I've got and how I got into the XR industry that I currently am in today. So the reason for the video is pretty much because one guy commented on my YouTube video, my previous one, asking me how I got into this industry. So see, if you guys comment on my videos, I'll definitely make the video that you guys comment. So pretty much I've done 2 degrees in computer science. One is my bachelor's, and then I moved on to my master's degree, and then I kind of got my job. So yeah, and I pretty much graduated in around 2020 with my bachelor's, and pretty much last year 2022 with my master's. So yeah, kind of pretty recent. But yeah, I'll start with my bachelor's. So it all kind of started back in 2017 when I was freshly out of my junior college in 11th and 12th science. I just graduated and I was like really confused as to what I kind of wanted to pursue, whether I wanted to pursue engineering like your classic average student, or maybe I was looking at some other different industries. So I was kind of confused as to what I wanted to enter in, and that's when I remembered about a childhood dream of mine, which was that I wanted to become a game developer, or at least make my favorite games. So at the start, when I finished my 11th and 12th, that's kind of what I decided to go on, and that was to become a game developer. And at the time there weren't really any game development courses around, so the closest thing to it was computer science. However, I didn't get into computer engineering because of me not studying from India technically, but yeah, so that's why I couldn't get into engineering. So hence I had to settle for a computer science degree, which was a normal BSc degree, which was kind of, now that I think about it today, it's pretty much equivalent to what an engineering student kind of does. Don't come at me, engineering students, if you watch this video, but I think it's the same thing. So yeah, my degree was 3 years in total, and let me break down what I learned in those 3 years of my life. Starting with my first semester, so we had in total 6 semesters, 3 years. I think you get the math for that. In my first year, and it was purely computer science with with a bit of other vocational and skill enhancement kind of lessons. But in my first year, we kind of focused on the basics and theory. So my first semester, I kind of scored 8.9 GPI. In that, I kind of learned my first ever programming language, which was programming with Python. So compared to what your normal student would learn, which was C, I kind of learned with Python. So that was my first language, and I kind of really loved Python. My hello world and everything was super easy with Python. But yeah, the first semester was pretty awesome for me, where I learned Python and I learned various different types of database systems, mainly in my SQL. So these were two important things, and by the end of my first semester I could pretty much write decent simple program solving statements, like how to use your for loops, your while loops, if conditions, switch statements, and all those various different kinds of syntaxes. And yeah, so I could do basic programming in Python, and I learned a bit about database systems. Coming to my second semester within my first year, I kind of started to realize how difficult computer science actually could get, and whether it was for me or not for me. My first semester mainly theoretical with just Python, and everyone knows Python is easy. My second semester, we learned C programming, and coupled with C programming was data structures. Now data structures was one of my most favorite and difficult subjects that I ever learned, kind of like a love-hate thing with this subject. And C, well, C was me kind of getting a rain check that my degree is not that easy. So after I learned C, I kind of found it pretty difficult in terms of the practical implementations where we had to code and stuff, because Python was just really straightforward, whereas with C you kind of had to understand how an entire program or the operation works, you could say. And that's kind of how I found C difficult. And me not knowing any programming experience from before, because I didn't learn any coding before. So at the end of the second semester in which I learned C and Python, I ended up with an 8.5 GPA, which is pretty less, you could say, like maybe 60s to 70s range. And yeah, I barely passed that, and I kind of had a slight thought whether computer science was for me, and in the middle I almost kind of switched degrees, but I did not. In my second year, kind of I started taking extra classes or extra lessons with my teachers to kind of catch up with the other peers in my class who already kind of had an upper hand in programming. So during my summer break, I also did take up a few courses here and there to kind of brush up or learn from scratch how C programming and C++ programming works. And then came my third semester. Now in my third semester, we learned a bit about Java programming. So by now I would have learned three programming languages, which was Python, C, as well as Java, and a bit of C++ from the courses that I took. And along with Java, I did learn a bit about database management systems and operating systems. Now, operating systems, I don't really remember if it was an important subject, but I don't remember anything that I learned. And funnily, it was the subject that I scored the lowest in. I think I got a B in it overall. And yeah, so this again was a kind of a tough semester for me because I was still learning programming. So I ended up with an 8.4 GPI or GPA, which was around 60s to 70s. But yeah, kind of just passed. But yeah, by the time I kind of ended with semester 3, I kind of started getting a hang of programming, and basically I could now kind of code some really complex problems, you could say, like using various different data structures, like maybe your lists, dictionaries, your keys, your hash maps and all that. Kind of learned most of how to implement it in my semester 3, which was my second year's first semester. Now coming to my fourth semester, which I'll get back to you right after I eat my breakfast, which I'm starving currently, so let's head over there. Coming back to the remaining semesters, I think we were at semester 4 of my bachelor's. So coming to semester 4 was when I started to, you could say I was getting smarter, you could say. Like I was able to understand various different kinds of concepts, and computer science, the programming aspect started to become fun for me. So up until my third semester, I purely hated programming. So coming to my fourth semester, we started to learn various different types of advanced concepts like fundamentals of algorithms, advanced Java, physical computing, as well as IoT programming. That was mainly theoretical, nothing practical much. And also we started learning Android, which I'll tell you became a very important thing for me. And finally a bit of linear algebra with Python, and finally .NET technologies. So semester 4 was kind of the start of the advanced concepts or the advanced important things that were actually being used to create scalable applications in the real world. So I did learn advanced Java, which kind of overall completed my entire package of Java. And by the time I finished my second year, Java was the most proficient language I was using. Like I kind of used it in everything. So as I mentioned, we learned Android. So Android and Java work hand in hand, and I was kind of making various different types of applications in Android at the time. One of which was my final year projects, which was in my third year. And I also did learn an important subject called fundamentals of algorithms, which is one of my personal favorite subjects because it taught us about various different types of algorithms, from pathfinding algorithms to memory algorithms, and even threads, multi-threading, and all those fun different concepts that kind of shaped my entire way of thinking logically when coding various different types of problems and breaking them down and optimization purposes. So at the end of semester 4, I ended up with a 9.2 GPA, and things finally started looking up for me. And finally, I came to semester 5, which is my third year. Now, in your third year, you do have a final year project that you have to make. And in my case, I made an Android application, which is a parking system. So yeah, it was just a parking system done on the on your phone instead of paying at the entrance at shopping malls. But yeah, that was just the last part of my degree. So in my fifth semester, I learned about artificial intelligence, a bit of coding in that, and a bit of theory and stuff. So one of the famous problems that we were given in this paper, I remember, was the Wumpus word problem, and I definitely recommend you guys to Google that problem. So I think people in my batch and even my juniors or even my seniors would like really remember this problem given by one of my teachers, the Wumpus word problem, which was like nobody could crack it in the entire batch. Like hardly maybe one or two people could crack, like not even the entire problem, just a bit. And that was one notable problem which was my favorite to kind of code. So after a few years I definitely did code it up after graduating, but that was one famous problem that was given to us, and in the end none of us cracked it fully, but we somehow kind of gave a half answer, you could say. And that question, even though no one would get it in the entire batch, that was the one question that was guaranteed to come in your practical exam. So just something funny from my past. So that was my semester 5. Again, I was starting to get smarter by the semester, so I ended up with a 9.2 GPA again in this, which was around 85%, you could say. And then came my sixth semester. Now fun fact, my sixth semester was kind of, we just finished studying, and then like all the colleges in India closed because we had COVID. Now it is important to know that about that huge 6 to 7 months, and I'll tell you what I did in those 6 to 7 months, which will kind of tie up to what I'm going to what I do to in today to what I do today basically. So in my sixth semester, I learned about wireless sensor networks and mobile communication. Uh, so just wireless communication, basically a bit of cyber forensics, interesting subject. Yeah, so in cyber forensics, we did learn about brute forcing. We even learned a bit about hacking, you could say. Then we learned about information retrieval, just kind of how to send data and kind of hashing your data or encrypting your data and all that stuff. Finally, we learned deep learning. So deep learning was again an interesting subject. According to me, I really enjoyed it. and then a bit of ethical hacking, ethical being the keyword, and then we had the project implementation. Yeah, so I finished this year with an 8.75 CGPA, which is 8.75 out of 10. So before that, what happened from March 2020 to December 2020 or November 2020 is the story which will be explained after I leave my house. So it's time to leave my house because I have to go watch a movie today. But don't worry, I will tell you guys what I did in that slight gap.